Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are live and welcome to tonight's edition of NASCAR 06 Total Team Control on the channel. And today, we will be NASCAR Busch Series racing at the Daytona International Speedway for race number 23 of 33 on this custom schedule season. And it is, of course, the day before Christmas Eve, which means we're getting closer to Christmas, which means we're getting closer, of course, to the holidays. It was a very cold day for me today, a very unpredictable day to say the least. For those of you that keep track of the channel, at least in the community post, I posted earlier what the temperature was. Not to mention, I'm going to put this out here at the start of the stream, not originally what I was planning on doing. Obviously, we're here to watch some racing, but it was a wild day. First time I ever drove in a blizzard, so that was pretty interesting to say the least. I did have to work. I knew it was going to be a long day. I knew the storm was coming, so that's why I expected this stream to start at about 8 o'clock today. And scheduled it pretty much in advance on Monday when I usually put out the weekly streaming schedule. I knew that I wasn't going to, the likelihood of me getting here on time by 6 was not going to be that great. So we did not get as much snow as predicted, but the winds were very high, making the conditions in which driving to and from work today very, very treacherous. But I have made it. I still have to go again tomorrow, so I have to do it one more day here, and the wind is not going to die down at all. Temperature is going to be like slightly warmer. I mean, like maybe 6 degrees warmer tomorrow morning when I go into work than what it was today. Actually, temperature-wise, when I went in today, it was warmer than what it is now. But the wind chill, the wind picked up. That's where it really got cold. So yeah, needless to say, that was an interesting experience. We may talk about it more throughout the course of today's race, although today's race will be action-packed because it is Daytona after all, and it's only a 100-lap race because it is a Busch Series race. So this is going to be a very, very short race tonight for the Daytona 250 for the NASCAR Busch Series. We'll get qualifying underway, and then we'll hop into the race soon after that, and we'll see where Kyle Busch will end up starting. Derek Booth, Ice Demon King 92 Hammer, Wade Solinsky, Mark DeMars, and others, welcome into the stream. Alright, I did not get stuck today. I kept my car on the road. I was going like 20 miles an hour at one point, though. I could not see a thing. It was crazy. I was just hoping I wasn't going to get ran into from behind. Because, I mean, you couldn't see at all. It wasn't that bad on the way home because it wasn't snowing anymore, so it was blowing around everywhere, but it was snowing as well as blowing around everywhere. Plus, it was dark when I went into work this morning because it was probably an hour and a half or so before sunrise, so that was definitely sketchy. That's the sketchiest conditions I've ever driven in. And, I mean, I've lived in Ohio my whole life, so I've driven, or at least been in a car, you know, through some tough winter storms. That was something today. Alright, so green flag is underway. We got 2 laps to try to set the quick time here at Daytona. Kyle Busch came very close to winning this race, which was only about 10 races ago. We had a Daytona race on the Busch Series schedule, so he's got a chance to try to redeem himself in another night race here. It's the 3rd and final Busch race of the season. And of course, we finally got that first Cup win at Daytona in the 400-mile night race just a couple weeks ago as well. Maybe we can go back-to-back at Daytona. Busch still looking for that first super speedway win of the season. This is his 5th attempt. He's finished inside the top 10 in all of them, but just hasn't gotten that win yet. And he's led a decent amount of laps in a couple of those races as well. Back to the start-finish line, this time on lap 1, pole 49.526. Not even going to run a second lap here as Kyle Busch will be leading the field to the green. His teammate Brian Vickers will start on the outside of the front row. Kenneth Clark, thanks for tuning in also. Alrighty, so an all HMS front row here. Green flag is in the air. 100 laps of racing under the lights at Daytona is underway. Dale Jr. starting inside of row 2. Edwards on the outside behind Vickers. Busch immediately pulls clear. Vickers getting a good launch on the start. And Vickers down to the bottom behind his teammate as well to try to help control the inside lane. Vickers won the season opener at Daytona, his only win of the Busch Series season. He's 3rd in points, trying to get the HMS Chevrolets to finish 1-2 if at all possible. We'll have to see how this is going to hold. And for Kyle Busch, looking to keep track position as much as he possibly can today. Can't afford to fall back knowing it is not a long race. He tried to come back and it was just too little too late. The last time Busch ran at Daytona in this Busch Series season. And off the exit of turn 4, Dale Earnhardt Jr. to the outside with help from Brian Vickers after sliding up in front of the 57 in the 2. Jr. will lead lap 1 at Daytona. Vickers down to the inside in the tri-oval in front of his teammate. He has a run now going for the lead into 1. Clint Boyer was side drafting Kyle Busch quite a bit in the tri-oval, really pinched him down. So Dale Jr. going to lead the opening lap of today's race. Busch back to about 4th place already off of turn 2. Vickers leads on the back straightaway. Jr. going to block Boyer for 2nd. That cuts the 2's momentum off. The 5 to the inside of the 2 on the back straight. And Jr. looking to cross over underneath the 57 of Vickers, and he is not quite going to get to the inside into turns 3 and 4. Busch washed up the track, got a little tight in the dirty air, just kept it off the 2. He never lifted, and actually Boyer's the one who scrapes the wall off of turn 4. I believe this is Luke Trigger in 4th place now as he gets by the 2. So Vickers leads lap 2 after Jr. led lap 1. Busch with a run in the tri-oval to the inside of Dale Jr. into turn 1. Pole sitter slides, clip the apron back across Clint Boyer, and already an early crash and a self-inflicted mistake by the 5 of Busch. He slid, he had it saved, but when he came back across the racetrack, the 2 was right there and pile drove him from behind. My goodness. That was all me. That was 100% my fault. I clipped the apron. Too aggressive of a line down on the bottom of the track, and the lack of practice definitely hurt there. And Kyle Busch going to have to go to the tail end of the field. Heavy damage to the right rear of his race car. Clint Boyer's got severe damage to the front. The top 2 in points with trouble on lap 3 at Daytona. Carsone Boy, welcome into the stream also. 12 degrees in Delaware. Yeah, I think right now, I don't know what the temperature is right now. I'm not even sure what the wind chill is either. When I put it on the community tab, the coldest I saw, it was -5 with a wind chill of -42. The feel-like temperature was earlier. I've never seen it that low before. The actual temperature, I've seen lower temperatures here before. It's been a while, but yeah, I've never seen the wind chill like below 30, let alone in the low 40s like it was. So green flag back in the air. I would not be surprised if we get a debris caution for Clint Boyer. Nobody else was involved in that accident. Somehow just those 2 cars. And Kyle Busch now going to have to make this race much harder despite qualifying on the pole. He is behind the 8 ball early on in this final Daytona race of the season. Gotta get off the apron. Easier said than done. Busch has to be careful not to lose the draft here as well. No cars in line behind him, plus the damage to the rear of his race car. He's in trouble. And he's already losing them into turns 3 and 4 as they get up to speed. Vickers will lead the first lap following the restart. Trouble off turn 4. There's cars backing up, a lot of smoke there. But we stay green, and you can see how that has split the 2 packs up all of a sudden. It's going to allow Kyle Busch to catch up to the back of the second group. Otherwise, Busch was going to lose the draft, and we have a caution in turns 1 and 2 anyway, our second yellow of the race, right as Busch was starting to catch back to the pack. Likely debris, as you see it down on the bottom of the racetrack, and it is from Clint Boyer. Debris was laying on the apron in turns 1 and 2. I saw his front fender there. And we'll try it again. Another single file restart coming up. Dale Jr. in second, right behind Brian Vickers, by the way. And the green flag back in the air once more. Lap 12. Busch going to try to get a car behind him as soon as he possibly can as he side drafts the 82. Getting up to speed this time. Caution. Well, he got around him, and then the caution came out for debris. Right as they were getting up to speed this time. Didn't get a full lap in. And it was the, maybe it was the left front fender that came off of Boyer's car before, and then the actual front bumper came off. The splitter had fallen off that time, so we continue to stay green, or continue under caution. Might even have his hood come off here before long, and have to imagine that Boyer's going to be suffering with all that damage and the lack of parts on the front of his car. Back to another restart. At least Busch has somebody behind him this time. Gonna make another pass into turn 1. I think this is gonna help him get up to speed a little quicker, I'd have to imagine. As long as he has one car behind him. Sad part is Busch never even got to lead a lap despite qualifying on the pole. Will they make it cleanly off turn 4? So one car grazed the wall. The 82 blows around Kyle Busch on the outside. Busch going to try to draft in line behind him. He'll be able to keep up with him. He'll have to tandem at the tail end of the field. Rough start for Kyle Busch while his teammate Brian Vickers trying to go for not only his second win of the season, but his second Daytona win of the year. Big chance with Bowyer and Busch having problems for him to move to second in points and try to cut that gap down any way, shape, or form on Kyle. Busch with a bump draft on the back straightaway to the 82. Got to be aggressive, though, if he's going to want to try to get back into this. Too aggressive too early, but now he's got nothing to lose now that he's already at the back. He's not expecting to be last place on lap 18 after qualifying on the pole. Big push to the 82 car into turn 1. Busch got out of the gas trying to check up in time. Maybe should have applied a little bit of brake, but he didn't want to lose too much momentum. Still going to stay with the 82, it appears. On the backstretch, he's got a big run. Lifts quite a bit into 3. Wanted to make sure he wasn't going to bump draft him into the corner that time. Busch's car just does not handle well in traffic. He's not able to clear the 184 car. Little contact. They're going to lose the 82 running side by side for as long as they did. Busch going to have to slide up in front of the 184 on the outside in the middle of 1 and 2. Try to open up the bottom for the 103 to get by him and draft behind him. Turner, welcome into the stream also. James Sykes, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Aaron Crocker got a win at Las Vegas. The race finished under caution, and I was side by side for the lead when the race finished under yellow with her. If I would have had like maybe 3 more seconds, I probably would have ended up winning that race. .103 and the 5 starting to close in on the back of this pack up here. Busch squeezes to the inside of the 103. Might have been a little too early. I don't think he's close enough to the 82 yet. Should be able to jump right back in line as the 103 pulls down to the bottom right in front of Busch anyway. Yeah, Kyle Busch just does not have speed that he had in qualifying, which is a shame. Having that single car speed and then losing it. That's tough. Murphy Express, welcome into the stream. Busch has another run. Into turn 1, he went for it. Body slammed the 103 out of the way. That was treacherous. Trying to make that pass. He's just desperately trying to pass cars at this point. He is struggling for speed with the damage to the rear of the car. Adding a little bit too much drag from what it appears. I can't stop hitting that apron. I don't know why I'm floating down there so much. Got a car blowing up in the middle of the tri-oval trying to get to the bottom of the track. Luckily, he was able to do so. We stay green. That could have caused a big wreck. Luckily, the only wreck we saw was a 2-car crash. We've had 3 early yellows because we had 2 debris cautions with that 2-car crash, both from Clint Boyer. Busch to 39th, but he's definitely not soaring through this field by any means. Able to stay with the pack, but that's about it. Very tough for him to make passes. Communist Legos, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, the car's tight and dirty air, but with the damage to the rear of the car, I can tell it's a little loose on entry. I think that's why I keep clipping the apron. I think Busch is going to have to let the 103 back by him again. Car going to make a block on Busch. There's just no grip with this 5 car. It is not fast. Lapper with the engine failure will finally get into the pits. Had to go all the way around the track because he blew up in the tri-oval past pit road. This is a struggle for Kyle Busch right now. The Daytona woes continue. Right when you thought I had the monkey off my back. He's only had 2 finishes outside the top 10 in the Busch Series this season. And this is quickly in danger of being the 3rd, considering he's in 41st about a quarter of the way through the race. He's just really not going anywhere. Vickers has led every lap. Busch could be right up there with him, knowing they both qualified on the front row. Busch had that mistake on lap 3, and I mentioned right before that, too, that we couldn't make a mistake because the margin for a comeback was going to be a lot less when you consider the fact that this race is only 100 laps. Past halfway through this field run. Busch pulling out of line. I'd assume he's going to be close enough to the cars in front of him into turns 3 and 4. Better be. Especially with those guys running side by side. And a car behind Busch. Man, we still weren't close enough. This is ridiculous. Three wide action off turn 2 up there. Yeah, I don't know. I was in the draft. I mean, you have to be so close to him, I guess. And it's only because we don't have speed in the car. Even with somebody behind us, it's just not good enough. It's hard not to take that run when you have such a big run as well. We still have 10 races to go in the season after this, and our next race is at Dover, and that's another track that's not good for me. So these 2 races, Daytona, Dover, back-to-back nights. This is going to be a rough part of the schedule here, so even though Busch has over a 550-point lead, you just never know No lead is safe. Even though he does have a 4-race lead over second in points. Finally able to keep up with this back group. Field car getting a little aero loose in the middle of 1 and 2. That's not good either. Luke Traeger, by the way, is just taking the race lead away. At the very front of the field from Brian Vickers, who had led every lap up to this point. He led the first 27, but lap 28 is going to be led by Traeger at the line. Busch finally starting to make a few moves at least. True Assassin 86X, thanks for tuning in. A lot of blocking and lane changing going on right now in the tri-oval. Busch wants to pull back up into the outside. It's where the numbers were off the exit of turn 2. We'll get down below the 116 finally into turns 3 and 4. Lifted still ended up pushing the 103 in front of him, who also kind of got to this pack on his own. John Hamilton, who won a couple races ago at Darlington, is in this backpack as well. Trigger hasn't won a race this season. Only one fantasy driver has won, and that is John Hamilton in the 120 at Darlington with that last lap pass. Walling Kyle Busch in 1 and 2 on that final lap to win. Bottom really freed up there for Busch to take over. Finally starting to make some passes. The problem is he's 7.9 seconds off the race lead, so I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work out for him. He's going to go 3 wide on the back straightaway trying to make a move. And 2 passes are going to be made there, and now he might make another into turns 3 and 4 for 30th. So he'll get there. The problem is, as he moves up to block in the middle of turns 3 and 4, there's nobody close enough directly in front of him. Ooh, a little contact off of turn 4 between Hamilton and the 152 back behind him. 86 back to the outside of Kyle Busch. Busch going to have to draft with that 86 car, and he'll be able to do so as he pulls in line right behind him. And good for Busch that the 86 moves down to the bottom. John Hamilton closing to the rear bumper of the 5. Finally able to make some passes, though. I'm not 41st anymore, thankfully. Big run for Kyle Busch and a big push to the 86. Oh, he got into him, though. Oh, about wrecked him. Definitely got into his left rear corner panel when he wasn't trying to. He bump drafted him at the tail end of the back straightaway. That push was fine, but somehow the 5 still had momentum even after the bump draft. Usually slows that second car down and boosts the first car ahead a little bit. But for whatever reason, that time Busch never lost his momentum and ended up just kind of driving through him. Hamilton's going to get by. The 152 right in line behind Kyle Busch. Busch trying to stay with Hamilton. A little loose right now, but I think he'll be able to. Problem with that big slide, too, it definitely burnt the tires off the car, so Busch is probably going to have to make a 4-tire stop. It's going to make it even tougher for him to try to gain track position. Definitely going to have to push it coming into the pits. At least he can afford to lock the tires up. Really trying to get everything he can out of it before hitting that commitment line of 70 miles an hour, which is the pit road speed limit every track on this game. Busch pulling out a line on John Hamilton. Clear run. He's definitely going to be close enough to this pack in front of him. He's got the 63 car next. Quarter of a tank of gas left at this point in the run for Busch. There's no way we're going to lose these guys. Are you kidding me? I mean, that was the fastest lap of the race by Kyle Busch, and he still can't catch him. Another car blowing up. J.J. Yaley has just blown an engine. That'll be another spot for Busch. Yaley's got to go the full length around the track as well, trying to limp it back into the pits. Alright, Busch isn't going to lose those guys. I thought he was going to there for a second, but I think he's just close enough. The 63 made a pass on the 120, the 109. Excuse me. Busch to the back of that 109, going to give him a push on the inside, and they're both going to try to work together to get back by the 63. Busch floating around the middle of the corner quite a bit again. And that kept him from clearing the 63 as he hops back in line on the outside. 63 looking for a crossover in the tri-oval. Busch really doesn't care who he works with. He's just going to work with the car on the bottom, and it looks like it'll be the 63 again. This time it's going to work out. Massive speed right now. Another pass made. Yaley just now getting into the pits. Nobody has made any scheduled green flag pit stops yet at this point in the run. It is so easy for Busch with the damage to lose the draft. Nobody pitting that time off turn 4 either. Busch lets the 63 car go on the inside of him in the tri-oval. I would like to think he's going to be able to get to the bottom right behind him and right in front of John Hamilton. He's just able to do so. Yaley. Yeah, J.J. Yaley's had a lot of bad luck. I feel like he's been blowing a lot of engines in our Busch races lately. Mark Church Jr. going to take over the race lead in the number 8 car as the leaders in front of him, including Luke Trigger and Brian Vickers. Actually, Vickers stays out. Luke Trigger coming into the pits there. And actually quite a few cars into the pits that time. Good chance Kyle Busch is going to stay out this time by as well, just in case we get a caution and trap some other guys a lap down. Prefer to make a 4-tire stop under caution rather than under green. Bump draft on the back straightaway. Just got to make sure he lets go getting into turn 3 well in time. And he does. Both cars to the outside. Busch just has to follow, really. Right rear definitely wearing out on the 5 of Busch. So they stay out of the pits again. Newman is in. Truex stayed out. Got his first lap led. The last lap leads a second lap that time by. So only 3 different leaders. 39 laps at Daytona in this Busch race so far. So the plan is that Kyle Busch will pit this time by. So with that being said, he's going to make a move underneath the 63. He'll make a pass for 13th. Busch knows he's coming in this time, so really just trying to get all he can. He'll have some cars he can pit with off the exit of turn 4. Look at how many cars he's going to try to pass coming in. Perfect pit road entry by Kyle Busch. Gained a lot of time into the pits as well. It'll be 4 tires and fuel, no adjustment, and damage will be repaired on the 5. Christopher McComas, thanks for tuning in also. Mr. Clean Crew with a clean stop, 15.2 seconds. Off and away goes Kyle Busch. There's John Hamilton, Michael Jordan Jr. around there as well. There goes some of the leaders. Truex and Vickers into the pits this time. Busch trying to get up to speed as quickly as he can down on the apron of the racetrack. Newman gonna blow by. And he's going to have a big pack of cars closing in on him, so that's really the best thing. Another good thing is that he's still in the lead lap if we did get a quick caution. Everybody that still has to pit is behind him on the track map, and that would include the 83 car who's coming into the pits this time by. 119 to the outside of Kyle Busch. 157 in line right behind him. John Hamilton back into this group. There's nobody directly in front of Busch, so he couldn't really get up to speed quicker. That's why he's getting freight train right now that they're finally catching him. They got a decent amount of damage repaired on this 5 car. Watch the car coming out of the pits down on the bottom. Busch just squeezing through and really wanted to get to the inside as quickly as he could. And he was able to do so as he gets by John Hamilton. We have some more cars coming out of the pits here. Hamilton up into the wall off turn 4. He got tight when the 5 moved across his front bumper. 157 looking to the inside of the 119. Busch trying to push him through there. He should be able to make the pass on him. So Kyle Busch was able to gain some spots on pit road. I think a lot of it was the pit road entry. It was definitely a clean stop by the Mr. Clean Crew as well. Busch with a quick bump draft to the 157. Successful at that. Try to catch up to the 4-car group in front. Busch into the wall off turn 4. That's going to hurt him a little bit. Maybe a little too tight. I was loose and now I got 4 tires on it and now we're tight. Matthew Dorter Bruno, thanks for tuning in also. 10.4 seconds off the lead, so we lost a little bit of time. Matt Kenseth is now the leader. He was not leading, and actually didn't lead a lap at all until we cycled through green flag pit stops. So this is the first time Matt Kenseth has led tonight. We're almost halfway home. Busch with another big shove to the 157. He had to lift getting into 3, trying to get his car to turn. But he does not lose enough momentum to lose the draft of the 157, which is good. But honestly, considering under green flag conditions, we've gone from last on the most recent restart to 22nd. That's pretty impressive. Especially when you consider that it was really about lap 28 before we started making passes. Able to gain probably about 4 or 5 spots on pit road. Like a caution at some point. That's going to be our best chance to try to get back into this race. I don't think we're going to make up everything under green. The more spots we can gain under green before a caution, that'd be better, but definitely going to need a yellow. Still 1 pit stop out from the checker yet. And with the 3 early cautions we had in this race today, I would like to think it's still going to be a 3-stop race. Although I guess it could be 2. Two cars right through the middle lane through 3 and 4 that time. So close. Kyle Busch is really hoping by the time they get to the back straightaway that he can maybe pull out a line and catch the group of cars in front of him. That's what I'm really hoping for. I'm really hoping the 157 doesn't catch them and pull away from Busch. Maybe the worst thing that could happen here. They're side by side right in front of him, so I don't think that that would be the case. If they were single file, maybe. Busch is going to make his move here towards the end of the back straightaway in the 157. Massive run. Going to clear him well into turn 3. Gets to the inside of the 83 car who led a lap or 2 during green flag pit stops. Kyle Busch clips the apron and squeezes the 83 into the wall. And he's going to lose the 3 cars in front of him. Very fortunate not to wreck there as he moves up to 19th. It's going to cost him some time, though. He's got a lot more catching up to do. Oh, 1 car in the wall off turn 2. The 157 slams it. So Busch only had to lose 1 spot there to the 83 car. Trying to get the 83 down to the bottom. He does move down, which is going to help Busch. Now, surprisingly, they didn't lose too much time despite both getting into the wall. Yeah, we haven't been getting too many clean stops by the Mr. Clean Crew, so I'm glad that one was definitely clean. I mean, if we look at the bright side of things, we're not even halfway through the race, and we have gained over half the spots from the last restart. So we're pacing well by positions to get up there, but interval-wise, we're losing time to Kenseth. Even when we are able to stay in a good draft. Just these cars mid-pack aren't as fast as the cars at the front of the field. Remember, Roush Fenway dominated the Daytona race most recently. It was Mark Martin who got the win, but Mark Martin and Carl Edwards led almost every lap of the race, and then Matt Kenseth ended up finishing up towards the front of the field in that one as well. I think they had a 1-2-3 finish. So no surprise that Kenseth is leading right now and may take control to try to get his 3rd Busch win of the season. He won a Daytona duel in the Cup Series very early in the year as well. Kyle Busch with a run on the 83 car, looks to the outside lane. Gutsy move, but it's going to pan out, and he is going to clear. First time Busch has really passed anybody on the outside today. He was able to clear by the time he got into turn 3, so that worked out perfectly, and he's able to stay in the gas, stay with the 63. Now he's got to run on the 63 car in the tri-oval. Fastest lap of the race by Busch, 47.570 that last lap. Busch back in line on the outside to block the 83 as he couldn't get by the 63. See him push up the track just a little bit in the center of the corner there. Cross flags at the line, 50 down, 50 to go. Now Busch makes a dive. Just got to the inside of the 21 of Miller into turn 1 as well. 106 moves to the bottom. Is Busch going to have enough to clear Miller off the exit of turn 2? He is. Not even going to really slide up in front of him because the 106 will stay on the bottom, which is where Kyle Busch wants him to go anyway. So Kyle Busch up to 17th now and right on the back bumper of the 16th place car into turns 3 and 4. Never say never. Even at probably my worst track statistically. Back-to-back fastest laps of the race by Busch. Back-to-back 48.5s. Ryan Newman in the 39, the next car in front of the 106 in the 5. This is a situation where they could pull Kyle Busch if the 106 catches Newman in the right spot. Especially with Busch not having anybody behind him this time. He's going to have to be very careful. Although if Newman continues to run the outside in the middle of the corner. No, he's going to go to the bottom that time. 106 in the same line. You can see the 106 pulling Kyle Busch because he's getting such a big run behind the 39 of Newman. 106 pulls to the bottom on the back straight. Oh, and caution is out for the 4th time today. Lap 53, our 4th yellow. That's going to put Kyle Busch right back into this. Oh, big wreck. I think he LePaged him. I think the 152 was down on the apron and ended up LePaging Michael Jordan. Oh, no, he spun already. He was already wrecked. He ended up in the grass, then came back across the track, and then barrel rolls back into the grass again as he comes across the banking. So the caution flag is out at Daytona. Waiting to see if the field is going to potentially pit here. Kyle Busch is going to stay out regardless, and everybody else stays out, so he's going to maintain track position. Never give up. Even when you're at your worst track, that caution's going to get Kyle Busch back into this race. He gained a lot of spots leading up to it as well, as the green flag is going to be back in the air. And it looks like we've got a slow car that blew an engine in this race that's going to try to make their way back in. That would be the 19 of Bobby Labonte. He didn't realize he blew an engine, but I guess he did. Decent restart by Busch. Not his best, but not his worst either. He's got plenty of cars behind him. Should be able to stay with these guys. At least I hope. Needs to. Brandon Miller to the outside. Still outside the fuel window to make it to the end of the race. That's why nobody pitted. Miller still on the outside of Kyle Busch. Busch thought about pulling up there, but I think he's a little bit too far behind the next group of cars in front of him. Couldn't pull up behind him either with the 83 there, unfortunately. 83 going to pull down to block Busch. He had a run on the 21. He's trying to get around him into turns 3 and 4. That actually probably worked out better that he had that run and pulled down in front of the 5. 5 was able to follow him. So Busch has lost 2 spots off this restart. Definitely not his best restart of the race. Remember, he qualified on the pole but did not lead. And then ended up in that 2-car wreck with Boyer. Car down on the apron of the racetrack. That's Bobby Labonte. He still hasn't came up above the apron yet since leaving the pits. I think he's just running the apron all the way around the track, honestly. Busch should have a big run here. The 63 had a big push from behind on Kyle. Kyle pulls out a line on the back straightaway, trying to get by the 21 and Miller. He didn't get too tight there, didn't lift either, and he'll stay in line behind the 83. Finally clears Miller for 18th. He was struggling to clear him ever since Miller got to the outside of him that first time, half a lap after the restart. halfway through this fuel run right now as well. Busch making a move on the 83. Is he close enough to the 106? That's the next question. He's going to clear the 83 for 17th again. Off turn 2, though, I believe he might be a little too far behind the 106 yet. Pulled out of line a bit too early there. That's going to bite him. John Hamilton underneath the 83 into turn 3. Hamilton to the outside. Busch just hoping one of these guys clears him at this point. Hamilton will be the guy to clear him at the start-finish line and drops to the bottom in front of Busch. Man, Busch just did not take off well enough on that restart like I would have hoped. He did bump draft somebody initially, and I think that's what stalled him out. That was way back when he was in first gear still. Bump draft to the 106 right in front of him. I think that stalled him out in the middle of 1 and 2. Matt Kenseth has led every lap since the restart, even really since the green flag pit stops, he's led every lap. So there's a little bit of a gap up there between himself and then the second place car behind him. Really wish Hamilton would run the bottom. He's running the outside of the racetrack right now. Wish this car a little tighter in dirty air. He's trying to get Hamilton to ride the bottom. He's just not doing it. There's nobody directly behind the 5, which is not helping him either. And Hamilton's getting a big run behind the 39 of Ryan Newman. Caught his draft on the back straightaway just a bit, I do believe. Busch pulls back to Hamilton a little bit, though. Didn't quite lose him. He was in a slippery slope there, potentially losing him. Busch with a push. To Hamilton, now into turns 1 and 2. He's got to hope he can build up enough of a run off turn 2 to potentially pass John Hamilton on the back straightaway this time, because might be close enough to Ryan Newman now. And Hamilton keeps running the outside. Oh, a little contact up there. That's going to stall that pack out. Saw some sparks flying. That might be the chance that Busch needed, and that might have knocked Newman back just enough. It's still going to be close. He cleared Hamilton with the ease off turn 4. Hamilton back to the outside, though. Busch sought the opportunity, just didn't work out for him. I saw the contact, so I was committed to making that move, and I couldn't even really clear Hamilton there. Hamilton to the bottom, though, so this might work out better to sit behind him for about another lap. Newman now to the outside with the 106 right in front of him on the top as well. Oh, don't lose him. Hamilton's got a big run behind Newman right now. On that back straightaway, Kyle Busch just desperately trying to cling on to John Hamilton's draft. It's so hard when there's nobody in line behind Busch as well to try to help keep the energy up. Remember, he still has damage from that lap 3 accident. He only fixed so much of it. Hamilton side by side with Newman. Busch scrapes the wall a bit. So close, man. Hamilton just pulled away from him. He's probably going to have to wait for Brandon Miller to try to catch back up again. Caution was what we needed, and we were still 4.7 back when we were like 12 seconds back. Got some cars pitting. Window's probably open to the end of the race, so Busch is going to pit now with Brian Vickers. Can't speed. He did not, and he beat the 57 into the pits. And it's going to be right side tires only for Kyle Busch as well, even though he locked the tires up. This is a risky call, but going for broke here is Kyle Busch. Window open, he'll beat the 57 out of the pits with ease. And now he's got to get up to speed. Gutsy call. We'll see if Busch is going to have the grip to the end. He definitely cooked the tires coming into the pits, and hopefully he didn't lock up that left front too badly. But it is a two-tire gamble on the final stop of the race for Kyle Busch, trying to gain that 4.7 seconds he was off the lead when he pitted. Another perfect pit road entry, really. Wishes he didn't lock the brakes up that time, though, considering he took two tires, and I wasn't even thinking really about taking two until I was on pit road. I wasn't really committed with it, but I just don't think the car is quite fast enough anyway, so we'll try to get the track position out of it and hope for the best. That's all we really can hope for. Edwards to the lead on Kenseth off the exit of turn 4. We'll take our first field pass of the race today. We'll drive as Brian Vickers for right now, as he is in the middle of the pack, and Bobby Labonte kind of slowing the pack up right now. Vickers stuck behind him on the outside. So that's going to cost Brian Vickers a little bit. Kind of forgot Labonte was going to be caught. It's actually good that Busch pitted when he did, because he ended up not having to deal with Labonte an extra lap. Vickers got caught a lap down when he got stuck behind the 19. That's crazy because Vickers wasn't that far, only a couple seconds behind Busch, but I guess Busch was able to get on the track before the 19 was able to catch him. No drafting help at the very front of the field right now for Kyle Busch. Vickers' car is kind of floaty in the middle of the corners too. It's hard to tell whose might be worse. It's almost very similar between the 5 and the 57. And back to Busch, at least for now. I'd imagine everybody's going to pit before lap 80. NASCAR Cup Series 2311 Racing, thanks for tuning in. Really hoping and praying that Kyle Busch is going to be able to cycle to the lead somehow. We'll take our final field pass back-to-back here. I think Busch may be a little faster when I'm not driving as a single car at least, so that's why we're choosing to do this now. Thought a car was going to try to take it 3 wide. Dale Jr. does get around Brian Vickers there. Vickers follows Earnhardt in the 81. Led the first couple laps. Junior led lap 1, and then Vickers led lap 2 to 27. I think Vickers might still have led the most laps in the race at this point. If not, Kenseth has beaten him. Pretty close, because Trigger led right before those stops ended up taking place. Oh, Junior checked up off turn 4 with cars pitting in front of him. Vickers got into the back of the 81, and that stalls Vickers out a little bit more as well. Well, dang. 30 laps to go at Daytona, the Daytona 250 for the NASCAR Busch Series. So Amazing how much further Vickers is going to be behind with all the cars slowing him down. Just gets back up in front of John Hamilton. Drives Kyle Busch for the rest of the race once we get back to the start-finish line. Vickers just gets underneath Kenny Wallace. There's Luke Trigger, who led laps earlier in the race. So Kyle Busch cycling out of quite a few cars right now. It's going to be very close on if he's going to be able to cycle in front of the Roush Fenway Fords of Matt Kenseth and Carl Edwards, though. That's the big question. And they're going to catch Bobby Labonte a few more times yet before the end of this race as well. How will that dictate the finish of today's race? Can alternate through the different camera angles for the first time in this race today. Busch not going to cycle ahead of anybody who pitted this last time because nobody pitted that last lap. Busch, again, has not led despite qualifying on the pole in today's race. Got in a lap 3 accident, turn 1 where he clipped the apron. Kind of spun, but he saved it. Was going to lose the lead, and well, not lose the lead. He was already in third, but he was going to lose track position, but when he kind of came back across the track in the middle of the corner after sliding sideways, Boyer got into the back of him, which caused then Boyer to wreck. Busch actually kind of kept the car straight after the contact, but he had a lot of damage to the rear of his car, which has definitely hindered the speed in it. Still on the lead lap here, but the leaders are closing in behind him fast off of turn 4 as Carl Edwards, the race leader, is right there. Couple cars side by side coming out of the pits. Busch trying to stay in front of Edwards, trying to stay on the lead lap. Matt Kenseth trying to battle the 60. And one car trying to get up to speed down on the bottom of the racetrack. Busch is hoping he can catch him in the middle of the corner. And it's Mark Martin, and we know the Roush Fenway cars have been fast on the super speedways, and especially at Daytona. Edwards coming into pit that time from the lead. Kenseth will take it over. So close to Mark Martin, but not quite there. We got more cars coming out of the pit, so maybe I should say Kyle Busch should be able to cycle with. John Hamilton. Kenny Wallace, Clint Boyer was in the top 5 most of the day. I think this is Shane Meal in the 32. On the inside, Kyle Busch will be able to catch Shane Meal as Meal gets up to speed off turn 4. Kenseth gonna pit though. So now Busch doesn't have a car behind him. It's the moment of truth. Can he keep up with Shane Meal? Remember, Kyle Busch took right sides only under that last pit stop as well. And he was already struggling trying to stay with some cars in the draft. And a lot of it basically had to do... Oh, they're catching Bobby Labonte now. This is going to help. Labonte holding down Martin and Meal. And here comes Kyle Busch to the inside of everybody on the back straightaway. Clears them all. And he's up to 8th. First time he's cracked the top 10. They are way behind Matt Kenseth and Carl Edwards right now. Martin clear off turn 4. What a head of steam he had. Busch intentionally gave up the bottom, trying to hopefully draft in line behind Martin. He's got Shane Meal on the back. Bumper caution is out. That changes everything. Our 5th yellow of the race with a little less than 30 to go. One car upside down. Our second flip, wall riding on the back straightaway. It was the 109. Gets hit from behind, and that actually kind of put him back on all 4. Actually, that was off the exit of turn 4. That's going to trap quite a few cars a lap down. So, yeah, there's a lot of cars a lap down with that caution in the middle. Green flag stops. Good thing it wasn't two-tire stop by Busch, because he might have been a lap down if it wasn't for it. He's going to restart in 5th. Green flag back in the air at Daytona. Kenseth will restart in the lead. How quickly can Kyle Busch get to the bottom? He's going for it in a hurry. 119 trying to block down to the bottom. Kyle Busch gets squeezed into 1 and 2. He gets loose. Hangs on to it. He had to burp the throttle. It's going to kill his momentum on the back straightaway. He slides right up in front of Mark Martin. Hanging on to 4th. He's going to lose the top 3, though. He got 1 spot out of it. He got squeezed. Taking that late dive into the corner. Martin and Meal going to get by Busch. Busch trying to draft behind Martin as he side drafts the 32 of Meal in the tri-oval. Now he sits behind him just a bit. Pulls out of line again on the end of the front stretch. Desperately trying to cling on to the draft with the 9 as he's back in the top 5 again. 19 laps to go at Daytona. Kenseth leads on the restart. Martin on the bottom. Where Kyle Busch wants him to be. They're 1.9 seconds off the race lead. Can they run those leaders down? And as they catch more cars, can Martin and Busch get by the lap cars quicker? Because there are a few lap cars between the 3rd and 4th place cars right now. Have we seen the last caution in today's race as well? Fastest lap by Busch. By far his fastest lap of the race. 47.4. Left rear wearing out on the 5. Remember, he took right sides only. I think Miller's in 3rd in the 21. Kyle Busch going to pull out a line on Mark Martin. 3 wide as he makes a pass for 4th. Don't know if that was the right move necessarily, and the only reason he did it is because there were lap cars around him. Maybe he could draft with one of them. Keep Martin in his rear view. In case we get a caution, he'd have another spot. But the 112 running the outside, which is not going to help Kyle Busch. It's not going to help him at all. Now Busch is 3 wide middle. As Martin gets back around him again, and he has to draft in line behind him again. We'll see if we get any more debris yellows, especially from that last accident. Leaders are going to catch Bobby Labonte at least one more time. I think Miller scrapes the wall off turn 4 as he got tight behind the lap car who's been blocking him. The 108 holding up Miller right now. That's why he can't keep up with the other 2 cars in the lead. Looks like we got another car blowing up on the back straightaway as well. Could be wrong on that, but... Martin pulls it in on Miller. Will he get by him? I'd rather follow Mark Martin just because I know how fast the Roush cars are. Miller's going to cut down trying to block the 9. They've all cleared the lapper. The problem is Busch may lose these 2 as they draft together off of turn number 4. And the 108 pulls alongside Kyle Busch. That was not needed. That's a tough break for Kyle Busch. Busch in the wall. I can't run the outside on these tires. Gosh darn it. Meal gonna get by. Kenseth and Edwards catching Bobby Labonte again. Busch getting arrow loose in the middle of the corner. The 119 all over his back bumper. That's going to allow Casey Kane to get by. That car with severe damage on the bottom of the track. I think it was Jourdain, and that damage probably came from that earlier accident he was involved in. Man, they were 3 wide behind Busch. Some of these guys are lap cars, some of them are lead lap cars. Now they are 3 wide right behind Kyle Busch. 119 is clear. It wasn't a lost position. Everybody that pulls in front of Kyle Busch wants to run the top side except for Mark Martin. That's why it was so crucial trying to stay behind him. The 119 just rammed it into the wall going into turn 1, which Kyle Busch obviously didn't want to run behind him after that. Had to pass him. This has to be the most frustrating racetrack for me. Right when we find momentum, and what seems like the right time, it still doesn't really do anything for us. Another lost spot. Trigger up the middle between the lap cars behind Busch. Busch going to try to draft behind the 135 now. It does look like he wants to run the inside, which is just glad somebody wants to run the bottom at this point. It is a lead lap car, so they are a bit quicker. Big bump draft on the back straightaway into 3. "11 laps to go this time by for Matt Kenseth, who has dominated the majority of today's race. And Roush Fenway Racing looking for another 1-2-3 finish at Daytona this season. Same 3 drivers. 47, 4, 6, 8 that last lap. Fastest lap for Kyle Busch. So even on 2 old tires, he's running good lap times. He just needs guys to run the bottom. He was keeping up with Martin until Martin caught Miller and drafted away with Miller. We'll see if Martin has anything for his teammates at the front of the field. He's the only one of those 3 that haven't led a lap. Leaders catching up on Bobby Labonte. They're going to catch him this time. We're going to have 10 to go at the line this time by. I'm not sure if they're going to catch him a second time before the end of the race or not. Guess it depends on if we stay green or not. If we stay green, I think they will catch him one more time. Edwards to the lead as he got by Kenseth, likely because of Labonte holding him up. If I had to guess, Busch goes from 7 seconds off the lead to about 6 seconds off the lead. Oh, man. I think the 135 checked up for the 19 of Bobby Labonte there. Labonte went to the bottom and back to the top. Stalls out the 135. Busch gets around him for 7th. 9 to go at the line. We're going to end up falling over 7 seconds off the lead again here with nobody in front of us to draft with. Not a great night, but all in all, to get a top 10. In the beginning, we might have had the car to do so, considering we qualified on the pole with the damage. I don't know that we necessarily had a top 10 car after that. If I would have known that caution was going to come out, I think it might have been better for us to stay out and try to lap more cars potentially. But then again, I mean, there were some other cars that stayed out. I don't know. It's tough. I don't really think it was the right or wrong call there. Busch gets blown around by the 135. Can't even keep up with him. I think we just got to hold on for every position from here to the end of the race. 8 laps to go. All I'm going to do is if I lose another spot and sit behind him is potentially lose the draft of that driver and lose another spot that I can't gain. The only other car we can get back at this point is a 135. We're not going to catch anybody else. Now without a caution. And if we get a caution, that's one less position we have to try to get around at the finish too. Yeah, so Busch just going to have to try to hold on for dear life here. 7 laps to go at the line this time by. I know the 119 is definitely a lap down. So Carl Edwards now just trying to hold on to the finish. I know Dale Jr. is definitely for position. 119 is not. The 138 is. We're trying to side draft the 138 car. I think Kyle Busch is in danger of potentially losing out on a top 10 here late in this race. Trigger on the inside of Dale Jr. He's got a lot of positions up for grabs right behind Busch. Not ideal for Kyle. Car got a little loose that time. They stacked up behind us, so I think that was alright. I don't know what happened back there. They were 3 wide off turn 2. I don't know if maybe there was contact. 5 laps to go for Carl Edwards. Caution comes out at this point. The race will likely end, which I will actually take that. I'll take a caution right now ending the race. I don't know if we're going to be able to necessarily guarantee ourselves a top 10 at this point. Five laps at Daytona is a long time. This car is very loose, especially if somebody gets behind the rear bumper of Busch. A lot of side drafting going on right now between Aaron Crocker and Kyle Busch on the back straightaway. Clean racing though. Busch stays in front. All clear into 3 and 4. Oh, we got a car blowing up. The 138 blew an engine. That's a spot. Unfortunately, a couple spots were lost on the outside by Busch as Newman and Dale Jr. get around him. There's enough cars behind Kyle. He's going to try to hang on to Ryan Newman's draft. I think Jr. just got in the wall in turn 1. Busch able to get back inside the 81 car. Has to block the 6 on the bottom, though. Newman goes to the inside. Busch gets loose off of turn 2. Stays in the gas. Trying to stay with Newman as he side drafts Dale Jr. Desperately trying to get a top 10 finish here. Oh no, Crocker turns Busch off turn 4 and around goes a few cars. Back in front of traffic. That's going to end today's race. I don't know where Busch is going to get scored off of that, but the yellow flag's out and the race is going to come to an end. Eric Crocker turned Kyle Busch. Looked like they were 3 wide and she just got tight. Busch was in the middle, had nowhere to go. I was holding on to my car pretty well despite how loose it was, but that wasn't aero loose. We got taken out there. I don't know if we're going to get a top 10. I don't know where we were when the caution came out. That should end it. Checkered flag, a 10th place finish in a top 10 for Kyle Busch. He was scored ahead of both Trigger and Crocker when the caution came out. I'll take it. Kind of sucks that we had to wreck there at the end like that, but I don't feel guilty about that top 10 because I don't think I caused that wreck. So Carl Edwards led 18 laps today, but gets the win. A 1-2-3 finish for Roush Fenway Racing. Kenseth led the most laps with 39 laps led today. Mark Martin finishes in third. Shane Meal fourth, and then Brandon Miller rounds out the top 5. He's had back-to-back top 5s on the season now. Casey Kane ends up finishing at 6th. Irvin in 7th. Ryan Newman 8th. Dale Jr. 9th. And then Kyle Busch, rounds out the top 10. Jr. led the first lap. And even though we qualified on the pole, we did not lead a lap in today's race. But we did come back from last up to 5th at one point. And then we just lost the draft with Mark Martin and Brandon Miller at the time. That was the beginning of the end. 6 cautions for 17 caution laps. 12 lead changes, 128.3 miles per hour average race speed. Margin of victory was the race ended under yellow. Again, Edwards with the win over Kenseth. 1 hour, 56 minutes, 54 seconds total time on tonight's race. Our teammate Brian Vickers, who led 26 laps today, finished in second. He led laps 2 through 27 after starting second. But he definitely fell back right before that last caution came out. Quite a few DNFs. Shields, Yaley, Martin Truex Jr., Sweeney, and then Bobby Labonte finished, but many laps down. Smith blew an engine there in the 138 at the very end of the race with about 5 to go. And if he didn't do that, we wouldn't have gotten a top 10 finish, so that was kind of big for that side of things. And we had a total of 23 cars finish on the lead lap because we had that second to last caution with a little less than 30 to go come out in the middle of green flag stops. So that trapped a lot of cars lap down. We'll grow the points lead out quite a bit because both Vickers and Boyer finished outside the top 10. So I believe, well, we only finished in 10, so we're not going to get too many points on them, I guess. Vickers led laps. Boyer didn't, and we know Busch didn't. Smokey in the pot. Keegan fan, thanks for tuning in there at the very end also. Tomorrow night we'll be racing at Dover, Christmas Eve. That'll start at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be our last stream of the weekend. There will be no stream on Christmas Day. Dover and Atlanta, I believe, are the next 2 races of the Busch Series schedule. Actually, I have it on here. Dover, Atlanta, UPS Speedway, Bristol in the day, and Milwaukee are the next 5 races. As we have 10 races to go in the Busch Series, a 576-point lead as we grow that points lead out by 19 points over Boyer today with the top 10 run. Still only finished outside the top 10 twice this season, and we finished in the top 10 in all 5 super speedway races. Daytona finished 7th, 5th, and 10th. And then the 2 Talladega races, we finished 2nd and 4th. So, yeah, pretty good runs on super speedways. I don't win a lot of them, but I do run fairly consistent. So, you know, at least I got that going for me. Okay, I should say consistent in the Busch Series. I'm not that consistent in the Truck or the Cup. I usually tend to stink there, but in the Busch Series, at least on this season specifically, we've been doing pretty good. And that is going to end tonight's stream. And nothing more to add. Got over 1,200 point lead over 10th. And a 1,000 point lead over 7th. 816 points to Crocker in 4th. It's crazy. I mean, even the gap really between 3rd and 4th is almost 2 races worth of points. It's wild. Alright, thanks for everybody tuning in tonight. Be sure to hit the like button. Again, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Dover, NASCAR 6. Be there. Late stream tomorrow night. But it'll be the last one of the weekend, so you won't want to miss it. And have a Merry Christmas to anybody I don't see tomorrow night as well. Stay safe, everybody. Stay warm with the weather if you're being hit by the cold front I've been hit by over the last 24 hours. And, yeah, enjoyed the rest of the weekend.